There. My name is Erin Kehoe. I am the Study Abroad Coordinator here at LIM College, and I am going to present today a little bit about our Spring 2019 exchange opportunities. So just to give you an idea of what I plan to talk about, I will start by speaking a little bit about the benefits of studying abroad, what it's like to actually go overseas through one of our programs. I'll talk about the different options that we currently are offering for exchange for next semester, as well as how to choose between them. I'll talk about the requirements and qualifications that you need in order to be eligible to go, a little bit about both the academic and financial side of things, a bit about safety abroad, what the application process looks like, and what your next steps should be. And I have questions there at the end. If you're watching this post-recording, it's obviously not a live session, but if you do have questions about anything that I say here today, of course, please feel free to shoot me an email. We can always set up a time to either meet in person or to speak by phone to make sure that we get those questions addressed. So without further ado, I don't want to dwell on this slide, but I do always like to start my presentations by talking a little bit about why you should study abroad. If you've heard one of my presentations before, you know that I like to talk about the professional benefits of studying overseas. So, you know, the fact that having a study abroad experience on your resume sets you apart from a lot of other people who might be applying for similar or the same positions, whether they're internship or full-time job positions, as you are, which can really make or break your application in a competitive job market. I also always like to mention that employers tell us, and you know, in national surveys, they also say that they're looking for prospective employees that have skills like intercultural communication. They're looking for prospective employees that can work with people from a wide variety of backgrounds. And especially in today's increasingly interconnected world, they're looking for people that have experience living, working, studying overseas, because no matter what industry or sector of the fashion industry that you eventually go into, there's going to be some international component. So shifting from professional to academic, on an academic side, study abroad gives you the chance to take classes that might not be offered here at LIM. It also gives you the chance to meet classmates from around the world. So no matter where you're studying, you know, if you're in France, you won't just have classmates from France. You will have classmates from England, Singapore, Taiwan. You'll get to meet people from, again, around the world. And when our students come back here to New York or the US, one thing that I hear from them is that they now have friends from many different countries and they're excited to be able to go visit them. So that's a neat outcome. And then finally, study abroad is really something that changes you on a personal level. It really is a way to get to know yourself, to know what you're comfortable with, what you're capable of. One of my favorite things is seeing our students when they come back from studying abroad and really seeing the difference in them. It's pretty remarkable. Okay, so this is an overview of the process of what it's like to actually study abroad for a semester, so that you know what you're getting yourself into. So pre-departure, if you are accepted to one of our exchange programs, you will apply for a passport, or you will apply to renew your passport if you either A, don't yet have a passport, or if your passport is going to expire soon. And when I say soon, I mean probably any time within the next year and a half or so. Typically, most countries require that your passport be valid for at least 6 months past the end of your time in that country. So if you're thinking that you're applying for a Spring 2019 exchange and you know you think you'll probably be abroad until at least May, depending on the program and your own personal preferences, 6 months past May would put you into November of 2019. So again, you'd want to make sure that you have a passport that's valid until at least then. In addition to getting a valid passport, you'll also need to submit some information to your host school, the school that you're accepted to, via what's called a quote-unquote application process. So there's, of course, the first application with me, which is what we're talking about today. But then if you're accepted to a program, you'll need to complete a second application at your host school. This is not typically an actual selection process. It's just a way for the host school to get your information and to add you to their system. You'll also apply for a student visa, secure housing, register for your courses after having them pre-approved, purchase flights, logistical things like that, all things that I'll work with you on. There's a set of required pre-departure paperwork that we'll work together on as well. And then finally, there's a mandatory pre-departure orientation, which takes place towards the end of the fall semester, and which will give you a lot of information about health, safety, travel tips in general, money, packing, electronics, a lot of really practical, useful information. So that gets you ready to go. Then you actually travel to the country where you'll be living for the semester. You'll attend your orientation at your host school. You'll get started with your courses there. And that's really when you'll have a chance to meet new people. I would definitely encourage you to get involved on campus. So many of our partner schools have clubs, sports teams, social events. Take advantage of those. And then what many students are interested in is also traveling, especially on the weekends or school breaks. So definitely take the time to do that. And once your semester abroad is over, you'll return to the US. I hold an online webinar format re-entry orientation. So where we talk a little bit about, kind of your experiences, things you loved, funny things that happened, things that you didn't enjoy, or things that we can improve for next time. As well as how to make the most of your experience on your resume and in interviews so that it's actually useful to you. I also ask students to provide feedback to me in the form of surveys as well as short exit interviews, so I reach out about all of that. And then finally, there's the opportunity to help out at study abroad events as well and share your expertise. So now on to our exchange options, now that you have a little bit of a better idea of what it's like to actually go overseas with the college. So the first option is in Australia. It's RMIT, the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. This program, the semester dates don't match LIM's semester dates because it is in the Southern Hemisphere, so their academic year gets shifted a little bit compared to what ours is. This program is a great program. A lot of our students come back and are really excited about the experience that they had. RMIT is also a huge school, so they offer a ton of courses, and there's therefore a lot of flexibility. So if you are a transfer student, or if you are taking a concentration, if maybe you were originally one major and then switched after taking some courses, and you need flexibility in course selection at your host school, RMIT is a good option for that. Now on the other end, we have 3 partners in England, and as you can see from the note there, these course offerings are not very flexible. So it's really just the nature of the British higher education system and the way that they structure it for their own students. And because you're enrolling as a student at these schools for the semester, you essentially need to abide by those same rules and structure. So that means that participants in these programs do need to have quite a bit of flexibility in their schedule, meaning electives. So if you do have electives free, our British programs are also great. We have 3 of them, one at the London College of Fashion, which is definitely an academically challenging program, so I recommend to students that they have a 3.5 GPA or higher in order to apply. That is not a hard cutoff, so if you're really passionate about LCF but don't have that GPA, still submit your application. And again, there is limited course choice, so you'll actually select a degree at LCF from among the 4 that they offer to our students, and then you take two courses, which are each worth 6 credits that are offered under that program. University of Westminster, which is located in Harrow, slightly outside the city. It's about 30 minutes northwest of London by train. There's some course choice, so again, not a huge selection. Generally, students end up using electives. And then finally, also in England, the University for the Creative Arts, which is located in Epsom. It's about 30 minutes southwest of London. Typically, our students opt to take fashion promotion and imaging courses in the spring. So if you are a fashion media student or a visual merchandising student, those can be really good choices. But there is also typically some flexibility with the UCF curriculum. So if you're interested in England but not really sure if UCA is for you, come in and meet with me and we can talk about it. They, depending on the program, do not have any course choice. So again, electives, very important. We have two partners in France, the American Business School Paris and the Paris School of Business. Both offer business and liberal arts courses. They're both have kind of a medium level of flexibility. ABSP, the first one is a little bit more flexible, whereas PSB, the second one, is a little bit less flexible, but again, they fall somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. And for any of our exchange programs where they're not taking place in a country where English is the first language, the language of instruction, so the language that you'll be taught in, the language of your classmates and your professors and the administrators at the school, is English. So even if you don't speak a single word of French, you can definitely still travel to one of these schools. We actually have students who do that very frequently. Same could be said of our next program, the American University of Rome. This program is open to sophomores and above, which is unusual. Most of our programs are just open to juniors and above. So if you're a sophomore and you would really like to travel as soon as possible, you could apply to that program. They offer mostly liberal arts courses. They also do have some fashion media focused classes that can be a good fit. And again, you don't need to know Italian to go there. I do always like to mention though, if you're somebody who's maybe thinking about studying abroad in a couple of semesters, I would definitely encourage you to take a language class or two at LIM. Currently we offer French, Spanish, and Italian, or to use Mango Language Lab, which is a resource offered through the LIM College Library database. It's kind of like Rosetta Stone, so it's a language learning software, but both great ways to help you prepare for your time abroad. We have another exchange partnership in the Netherlands at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences in their School of Economics and Management. So as you can probably tell from that name, it's a very business-focused school. They do have some liberal arts classes as well, no knowledge of Dutch required. We have a new partnership in Scotland at Heriot-Watt University in Galashiels. So this is a smaller town located about 1 hour south of Edinburgh by train. It's specifically a fashion program, so there's a focus on textiles, communications, marketing, technology, and interior design. So if you are specifically, a fashion merchandising, fashion media student, even really any of our degree programs, there are some really great fashion-focused courses offered there. We also have a newish partnership in Spain at the Universidad CEU San Pablo in Madrid. They have business, communications, and liberal arts courses that are offered. And again, you do not need to know Spanish to go there. And then finally, we have an exchange partner in Taiwan at Xichen University in Taipei. They typically offer business and liberal arts courses. Our students usually use electives for those classes. There's a lower cost of living in Taiwan, so if you're on a budget, that can be a really good location to consider. You do not need to know Taiwanese to go there. And finally, we also partner with RMIT Vietnam's campus in Ho Chi Minh City. They have a fashion-focused curriculum, a very low cost of living, so extremely affordable, and you do not need to know Vietnamese to go there. So those are all of our partners, and it might seem a little bit overwhelming. You may know that you do want to study abroad either next semester or at some point in the future, but you're not really sure which of those is the best option for you. So it's important to think about a few questions when you're considering those choices. Think about what you want to accomplish academically while you're abroad. So I mentioned, some of those schools have different focuses, offer different courses. Which of them is the best fit for you in that sense? Do you want to take coursework that really closely aligns with your major? Or do you want maybe to explore something that's outside of your major, something that's a little bit different? Do you have liberal arts elective credits that you need to get done while you're abroad? Again, each of our different schools will have different offerings, so you want to make sure that if you're somebody that needs some very specific management classes, that you're going to a school that can offer those to you. Do you want to study a different language? Is that something that interests you or is important to you? Of course, most of our partner schools that are in countries where English is not the first language do offer language classes in a local language, and I always encourage students to take advantage of those. And then think about the number of credits that you need to take overseas. So some of our partner schools will limit the number of credits that you're able to take to 12. You can always take classes online here at LIM during that semester if you need to do that to stay on track with graduation. But if you need, if you know that you need to take a higher number of classes at your host school, you would definitely want to check out each of those programs on our website, because there's a little bit more information there about credit limitations, things like that. Think about the timing that works best for you. So again, I mentioned some of those programs have semester dates that don't necessarily line up with LIMs. Some of them are a little bit longer than our semester, some are a little bit shorter. Again, you can go on our website to get more information about each, but that's something that you want to consider when you're applying. You want to think about the level of support that you need. So, most of our partner schools have really great support for incoming exchange students. But some of them are really big schools. So again, RMIT in Australia is a huge school. So, because of that, you sort of need to be ready to kind of take on the challenge and responsibility of getting adjusted there, making sure that you yourself are taking advantage of opportunities. Whereas at a smaller school, because there's typically a higher ratio of staff to students, there may be somebody there who's sort of pushing you or even mandating that you attend things that will help you get acclimated. So something to think about. And then think about the environment that best fits your needs. So consider the city or town where your school is located. Sometimes students say, kind of want to break from New York. I'd rather go somewhere that's a little bit smaller. Awesome. Other times students say, nope, I really want to be in the middle of a big city just like I am here in New York. Also awesome. But each school has a different environment, so something to think about. The requirements to study abroad are pretty simple. They're that you be in good academic and financial standing at the time of your application and throughout the pre-departure process. So that just means that you are not on academic probation, you do not have any financial holds on your account, nothing like that. The GPA recommendation is a 3.0, so that's your cumulative LIM GPA. But this is somewhat flexible, so you do need to have at least a 2.5 here at LIM in order to be considered. But if you're somewhere between a 2.5 and a 3, definitely still submit your application. There are some other factors that I look at, so GPA is not by any means the end-all be-all. Class standing, so our exchanges require that you be in the third year of your college level study at the time of the program, except for AUR, as I mentioned, which accepts sophomores. So that does mean if you're a transfer student and you've taken coursework at another college, that can count towards that 3-year requirement. That does not mean 3 years here at LIM. We typically ask that students be matriculated at LIM for at least 2 semesters before the start date of the program. But if you are a transfer student and that would be a challenge for you, send me an email. That's something that we can definitely talk about and look at your situation and see what we can do. And then each individual program may have different requirements, which can come up during the application process. But if you have any questions about that, check the website or send me an email. So when you go overseas, the credits that you take abroad should count towards your degree program. For this reason, I usually recommend that students save their electives for their semester abroad because, as I was mentioning, some programs have a lot of flexibility when it comes to course choice. Others are quite restrictive, most fall somewhere in between. So if you're not sure which program would be best for you based on your academic situation, send me an email. I'm happy to meet to kind of talk about that, but hopefully the information I shared a little bit earlier in the presentation is helpful on that front. In any case, before, if you're accepted to a program, before you even leave the country, we would work to make sure that the courses that you would like to take abroad are approved to transfer back and do indeed count towards your degree. So we don't take any chances when it comes to that because I definitely want to avoid any unpleasant surprises. I also always like to mention to students that it's important to know that when you study overseas, you're of course immersing yourself in a different style education system. So this means that the requirements of the classes that you take abroad and the assessments, meaning homework, tests, projects, presentations, are usually quite different than what you're used to here at LIM. And this is, again, just because different countries around the world have different style education systems. It's something that I talk a little bit more about at the pre-departure orientation, but it's a good thing to just be aware of ahead of time. You do have to earn a grade of D or better, or the equivalent of a D or better, in the courses that you take at your host school in order to receive credit for them. The grades that you receive abroad appear in your LIM transcript as pass-fail though. So we don't see the actual numerical grade and they don't affect your GPA. If you are thinking about applying to study abroad, especially for this spring, and you haven't spoken with your academic advisor recently, please make a point of doing that so that you do have an up-to-date graduation plan. And if you are accepted to study abroad, you're ready to plan out the courses that you want to take while you're overseas. So for our full semester exchanges, you pay your normal LIM tuition and fees just like you would for any other semester. The only difference is that if you live on campus here at LIM at the residence hall, you would not pay that for the semester that you go abroad. So you get released from your contract if you're accepted to the program. And you pay your housing costs directly to whoever provides your housing overseas. So depending on the program that you do, you might live on campus, so you'd pay your host university directly. You might pay a student residence hall that's off campus. You might pay a landlord if you're renting an apartment, but you don't pay LIM for your housing. So the billing and payment of housing is directly between you and your housing provider. There are some additional costs to consider. So of course, airfare to get over to your host country, cost of living things. So again, your accommodation, food, books, normal stuff that you'd have during a semester. You're required to have international health insurance, and we can talk more about that if you're accepted to the program. If you need to get a passport, there's a cost associated with that, student visa fees, and then any travel and entertainment that you decide to do in your free time. And I have estimates for all of those things up on the website under each program. So again, if you're looking at potential programs and also at your budget, that can be really helpful. If you get financial aid, any federal, state, and institutional aid will apply to a study abroad program. It's a really good idea to go in and speak with a student financial services counselor about your financial aid package, just in case there are any requirements on any, maybe say a scholarship that you get that could be an issue with you going abroad, but it's 99% of the time there's no problem at all, and those things apply just fine. There are also some scholarships available, so if you're interested in looking into that, please send me an email. I'm happy to send that full list on to you. So just a very little bit about safety abroad. We choose our partners overseas and our program locations really carefully. One of the main parts of my job is keeping track of changes in the level of risk around the world every single day. And if that risk rises too high, we would not hesitate to cancel a program. If we had students abroad when that happened, we would not hesitate to bring them back here to the US. And I use a variety of different resources for that evaluation process, including Department of State resources, a third-party travel risk management company that we work with. So it's not something that I take lightly at all. We've never had to bring students back from a program abroad because of that reason. But again, it's something that's on the table if I felt like it was no longer a safe place for our students. We, again, I mentioned that third-party travel risk management company. It's called International SOS. So the college pays for a membership with that organization and then passes the membership benefits on to all of our travelers free of charge. And I'll talk more about this if you're accepted to the program, but it's basically a health and safety resource for before and during the program. And of course, for the whole time that you're overseas, you're supported both by me and the host school staff in country. So you have kind of a double support system there. And then finally, at the mandatory pre-departure orientation, we talk quite a bit about health and safety, as well as some of the mandatory things that I require of all outgoing students. For example, requiring that students register with the Department of State Safe Travel Enrollment Program, STEP program. And again, we talk more about those things at orientation. So the application process is relatively straightforward. I always tell students just make sure that you're planning ahead. So if you are not planning to apply for spring 2019, make sure that you're staying on top of the application deadlines for the program that you are looking at. When you submit your application, you'll submit an application form, which you can find on the website, a short essay, and there are instructions on the application itself about what I'm looking for that. We do a short one-on-one interview, and again, I look at your GPA. So those are the main factors. And if, for example, maybe your GPA isn't quite where you'd like it to be, the essay and the interview are really important components. So give some thought to those things before you submit them or before you come in for your interview so that you're ready, because those can really help bring up your application. As you probably know, the deadline to apply for a spring 2019 program is September 15th. So that's in, just depending on when you're watching this, either a couple of weeks or maybe a week. So please make sure that you meet that deadline. Again, you can download the application form from the website. You'll need to write an essay, and then once you submit your application, I'll be in touch with more information about the interview component. And you'll submit your completed application to me at studyabroad@limcollege.edu, so digital copies only. So this is what our website looks like. Actually, this is a little bit out of date. We just had a great website update go through. But again, I've mentioned it a few times. If you Google LIM College Study Abroad, it's the first result that comes up. There's a lot more information there about all of our programs. So if you're doing research about which program is best for you, that would be the best place to start. So your next steps, make sure you're planning ahead. Visit our website, make an appointment to come in and speak with me about your options. Again, meet with your academic advisor and student financial services counselor, and submit your application to me by the deadline. And I should say it is not mandatory by any means to come in and meet with me beforehand, or even to meet with your academic advisor and SFS counselor beforehand. I strongly encourage meetings with your academic advisor and SFS counselor. And if you have additional questions, especially things that I can't help with by email, I'm more than happy to meet with you. But if you feel like you're pretty clear on everything, those are not mandatory by any means. All right, so that is everything that I have. If you do have any questions for me, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, my email address is erin.kehoe@limcollege.edu, or you can always email me at studyabroad@limcollege.edu. Either one will get to me. And I'm looking forward to receiving your application soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.